Hey, Money Masters, welcome to the Wealth Seed. This is episode 41. I am Lexi Johnson. I am an international speaker. I'm a financial strategist and other things, right? So many titles. None of them are all that important. But listen, I want to share with you today for our episode, we're going to be talking about FedNow, the CBDC, and you. That's what we're going to be talking about. Trying to clear up some things about what these things are, and then speculate a bit. Look, we're gonna be transparent. We're gonna speculate, right? But I wanted to talk about this. So let's dig in, right? And I don't even have a crazy money story today because I think that this is crazy, right? Everything that's going on in our financial system behind the scenes. So listen, if you are watching, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, let us know who you are, where you are watching from. Prayerfully, I'll be able to see your comments here in StreamYard. That's the platform that I'm using to broadcast. So hopefully I'll be able to see your comments. But if not, if I cannot see your comments, listen, leave your comments and your questions anyhow, because I do go back and check those out. Okay. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about FedNow, because FedNow, whether we like it or not, is rolling out in July. Okay. Now, will all the banks, roll it out in July all at the same time? No, I don't believe so. And articles that I've read have also said that no, it's not going to be all the banks at the same time, but it's definitely going to be a good number of banks, and others are going to, continue to come on board. So let's talk about the FedNow, what exactly it is. And hey, Mom, good to see you. Hello, Blanche, good to see you, watching from Johnson City, Tennessee. So let's talk about exactly what that is, right? And what they're saying it is, and then what we also need to understand that what it can become in the future, right? So FedNow, first of all, look at the word Fed, right? Who is the Fed? I've said this numerous times if you followed me, and if not, and you're new to all of this, then one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that the Federal Reserve is not a government entity. It is a private entity. It is supposedly a nonpartisan agency, okay? And they are not funded by the government. They are self-funded. They fund themselves in many ways, such as the fees that they charge to banks, because banks have a prime rate when they borrow from the Fed or borrow from one another. So they make money that way. They also make money by investing in securities, and security simply means bonds, typically in a large portion bonds, right? So they're self-funded. They make their own money. They're a private entity, and our government is actually in debt to the Fed, because we ask, well, who is the United States in debt to, right? Are they in debt to themselves? No, they're in debt to the Fed. Okay. It's a private entity. All right. So we have to first clear that up, know that, understand that. Okay. Now let's talk about FedNow. The Federal Reserve has been working on this since 2019, maybe even before, but definitely 2019, and there is proof online that they've been working on it, since then, right? And basically, what the FedNow system is a instant payment system. Okay, it's an instant payment system. More and more, we have moved to instant payments, right? We have moved to using things like PayPal or Venmo or Zelle, or I don't know, there's so many of them. And then you even have some that are international, right? Like Sendwave and Western Union, all of these things, right? So instant payment is not necessarily new. It's just that it has increasingly become utilized. More and more people are using it, and so the Fed, okay, are now coming up with their system for instant payments. Okay, so has the US been slow to kind of make this innovation available? Oh, absolutely, right? Because instant payments is not new at all. It's just becoming more and more common for people to use. Okay, so that at basic is what it is. Okay, so how does it work? You would have to have, you're going to make a payment through the FedNow system, an instant payment. Obviously, you would have to have the funds available, okay? And those funds move only in one direction, okay? So when they are sent out, they cannot be sent back, okay? Meaning they cannot issue refunds. There's no returning of funds. At least there's no structured way that I have seen it from what I've read that they can return funds. Okay, so you have to make sure that your payment instructions are correct if you're going to be using FedNow system, which many of us are because our banks are converting to it. So it's not like will be able to avoid it entirely. Okay, you may not have to use it completely right now. Okay, but do believe that they are moving to a cashless society eventually. Okay, that's my speculation. I guess I'll put that on the on there as a disclaimer because there's nothing in their writings that are actually saying that right now. But I'm the kind of person like you see the handwriting on the wall. Okay, so when you use the FedNow system, is it cryptocurrency now? Okay, hey, Facebook user, it's not showing me your name, so please forgive me for not calling you by name. So the US also has a cryptocurrency. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. The FedNow is rolling out in July. I don't believe yet that the US is rolling out its cryptocurrency just yet. I don't believe that they're going to roll it out the same time as the FedNow. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about, these two different things, so we can understand them like separately. And then we can talk about what does this look like down the road when they're both in place. Okay. So right now we're talking about the FedNow. Thank you for the question. If you guys have questions, do ask them. I'm going to try to, go back and forth, keep up with the chat. I'm looking at my notes and all that good stuff too. Right. Okay. So when you are making your payments with FedNow, okay, they are final. When they are executed, they are irrevocable. So you have to understand there's no structured way of returning funds right now. Okay, so you have to make sure that your payment instructions are correct. All the little details are correct. The amount of money that you're sending with it is correct because there is no way at this point to return funds. Okay. What the FedNow system will allow for is for you to be able to do more things outside of banking hours, right? So FedNow will operate at all hours and even every day of the year, okay, whether it's a holiday or not, because look at some of the instant payment systems that we use now, Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, all of those things. You can use those things whether it's a holiday or not, right? I can sit here on Christmas Day and Cash App my children some money, right? For their Christmas gift, if that's what I wanted to do. So the FedNow instant payment system will be the same way, 24/7, 365 days a year. Okay. The settlement. Okay. So the time that it takes, or we might say the time it takes for something to clear, is going to be instant. That's why it's called an instant payment system, right? So it's going to take a few seconds. Okay. Within several seconds, funds are going to move from your account to whomever you're sending it to. And it's going to be in their account and available to use. Just like we do with PayPal, Cash App, Zelle, all of those things, that money moves instantly. A friend of mine, she sent me a Zelle the other day. That money was sent instantly. She sent it. Literally, it arrived in my account in seconds. Um, and then I was able to take that money and do whatever with it, right? Now, in this case, she was sending a donation for the mission trip. So I took that money and I moved it over to the account for the mission trip, right? So it will be instant. Okay. So they're gone, gone are the days. If you use the instant payment system, you're not going to have to wait 2 or 3 days for a payment to clear. This may be good for people who are even doing business. If people are paid by ACH, then yeah, everything is going to move instantly, because right now, as it is, if a person opts to use PayPal and use their bank account use their bank account, right? So for example, I use Square, right? People can pay me through Square. People have the option of using their credit card. They have the option of using PayPal. They have the option of using Cash App. They have the option of using ACH withdrawal. That means their bank account. Okay. Right now, because the bank does not have an instant payment system, if they choose to use an ACH, it takes about 5 days for it to settle. Okay. Maybe even longer. Okay. So now with the implementation of FedNow, that will not be the case. Okay. Those things will settle quickly. Okay. So I guess that's a plus, right? All right. So what else do we know about FedNow? So as I mentioned, not every financial institution is going to offer it in July. It's rolling out in July, but not every institution is going to offer it in July. There are going to be some banks that are live at the beginning, and then, other banks will be added on throughout the rest of the year. Okay. So it may be wise to ask your bank where they are with the FedNow system, if they're going to be part of the banks that go live very quickly with it in July, or is it a bank that is going to be a little bit further down the line? It's just going to be a good thing for you to know, right? So, that's the thing about FedNow. Okay, it's a digital instant payment system. Okay, now let's talk about the CBDC, the US digital coin. Other countries have released their digital coins. Not many countries. China is one of them. They released their digital yuan. Was it last year or year before last? They released theirs, right? And there are a couple of other countries who have released theirs. And so the US, though behind, will not stay behind, right? So they have been working on their digital coin. Okay, so let's talk about it. It is a digital dollar, okay, that is backed. It's government backed, okay? It's digital currency. And so it's something that's going to be easily available to the general public, just like cash is easily available. Okay. So people have asked me, well, do you think that they're going to do away with cash like right away? That it's just going to be this instant takeover. And I don't think so, right? I don't think cash is going anywhere for a little while. I do speculate, however, that at some point, if it doesn't go away altogether, it is going to go away to a degree like where it's going to be very, very minimal use, right? So that's just my thought. Okay. So a CBDC, okay, this digital dollar differs from existing digital money because it would be a liability of the Federal Reserve. It is not the liability of a commercial bank. Okay. So it, again, could function along with cash. All right. Right now, they're saying it'll function along with cash. The digital dollar is not a cryptocurrency. Okay. So we want to make sure that we understand It's a digital coin, a digital dollar, but it is not a cryptocurrency. And why is it not a cryptocurrency? It's not a cryptocurrency because cryptocurrency is decentralized, okay? Meaning that cryptocurrency is of the people, by the people. It is not controlled by the government, okay? And that is giving the government heartburn right now, okay? If you've been paying attention to the news, and let me say this, because I think most of us, a lot of us are caught up in that whole missing submarine story. Okay, but don't let that become all that you're paying attention to in the news. The media likes to put out smoke screens. I'm not saying that the submarine, the people missing in a submarine and all that is not a real thing. So don't pin me with that. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the media controls what is getting most of the attention right now. Right now, it's this whole submarine thing. And I am saying to us as money masters that we not be distracted by it, that we still pay attention to all the other news stories that are going on behind the scenes. Okay. So you see that they've been talking about this submarine thing nonstop for some days now. And they haven't really, there's not been much talk about the rollout of FedNow. There's not been much talk about the CBDC. There's not been much talk about this stuff, right? Because they want to keep people distracted. Okay. So be mindful of that. All right. So they have been, the Chinese government started testing their CBDC in 2020. And then, like I said, I think they rolled it out last year. All right. The US Treasury has a working group for determining what the CBDC could look like. And they're doing it in collaboration with the Federal Reserve and some other elite groups. And they're looking at issues like privacy, national security, the dollar and its role in the financial system. And I'm going to speak to the issue of privacy and all of that in just a moment. But that's what these groups were. That's what this, working group, study group, whatever, is challenged at looking at. And again, how it's going to look like, when it's going to roll out and all of that. I was saying that the digital dollar is different than the cryptocurrency, okay? Because again, a cryptocurrency can be mined by anyone. It is of the people, by the people. It's decentralized. The digital dollar cannot be mined by anyone. The digital dollar can only be mined by the Fed, okay? So, let's talk to privacy. And now here we get into a little bit of speculation, okay? And I just want to be clear and say that it is speculation. So with FedNow, the combination of FedNow and the digital dollar, or even each of them on their own, there is always an issue of how far can one go with privacy. So first, let's acknowledge that even with things like Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, all of that, right? Your privacy is out the door. Okay. So all of us that are hollering about privacy, so to speak, our privacy really is, to some degree or another is out the door. Okay. There are some levels of it that we can control. With cryptocurrency, because it's decentralized and because its whole thing is on the premise of privacy, so that government, okay, and other entities are not in your business, then they have things set up to where you can't easily find out who is sending what at what time and how much and where. Okay. You would have to do so much research. Understanding blockchain and all that you would have to know a lot of information about a specific transaction to really pin it down to the specific person. That's with cryptocurrency. With the digital dollar, that's not going to be the case. Okay, it's going to be very clear who sent it, why you sent it, who you sent it to. Okay, it's going to be very, very, very clear. So the privacy continuum, there is a continuum, right? If we look at some other countries, I'm going to use China again. In China, they have something that is called like a social credit score. What does that mean? Because a lot of things are digital or whatever, they have the ability to kind of look at, hey, are you promoting the government or are you not promoting the government? And are you not only not promoting the government, but you are bashing the government? And they actually have fees, okay? That if they find that in your social networking, you are bashing the government, there could be a fee attached to that, okay? So this is why I'm saying there is this continuum of privacy. And so we have to keep our eyes open too, because who's to say that our government would not go down that road, okay? Many leaders from the US and leaders from all over the world, from Stalin to Obama, have said that if a country could gain control of transportation, of health, and money, those three things, then they can control all the people. In France, and y'all can, look these things up. In France, they have implemented some crazy like travel rules, I guess you want to call them. And people are limited in how they can travel, when, right? And how far. So for example, they may be told like in certain seasons how far they can fly, if they can fly or not fly, or if they can use boats or not use boats. If they need to walk or bike or, whatever. So they have some things in place. I'm not, putting out the specific rules, but, Google it. Okay. Find out for yourself. They have these things in place. So these various leaders in these various countries understand this. If you can have control over transportation, over health, and over money, you're going to be able to control the people. Okay. So I'm not saying these things to promote fear or anything like that, because that's not me. And as we understand, as if we are kingdom citizens, okay, which is the people that I generally talk to, then we don't fear, because we know that God is above all of this stuff, right? God will show us how to navigate through all of this stuff. So we don't really fear, but we do need to be prepared, okay? So this is why I'm saying right now, the Fed is saying, and the government is saying, oh, no, we're not trying to see every move you're making. We're not trying to do all of that, right? They may not be initially, but we need to understand that these systems will allow them the capacity to do so. Okay, so I hope that that's clear. I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do out the gate, but do know that they have the capacity to do that. Okay. Same with, when we're on Facebook and all of when we do anything on the internet, okay, there is a level of privacy that you give up. I had to, a couple of weeks ago, because, I stay on top of my credit. And so I have this, program that monitors my ID and see if there's any breaches and all of that kind of stuff, right? And so they were telling this thing, it gives me a report on a monthly basis. And it was showing me how many different companies my data was showing up in, right? And it gave me the information. It was telling me, okay, email this company and say you want your data removed. Email that company, say you want your data removed. Email that company, say you want your data removed. So I end up doing that. It was over 10 of them, right? That I emailed and said, hey, remove my remove my data. Okay. So this is where we are. Dr. Mickens, good to see you. There is speculation that the U.S. will establish 15-minute cities, which coincides with what you are speaking about. We are always being under surveillance. Yes, absolutely. Right. And I know sometimes people tend to think, oh, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Why would they do that? Who has time to do it? And on one level, I'm not saying it's crazy. On one level, I agree. They're not going to be spying on every doggone body because they don't have enough people that they can pay and to, dedicate their time to doing that. However, I need you to understand that this is the capacity that these systems have, and that if for any reason you come up on their radar for anything, okay, they can certainly go into these systems and see your movements. They can see where you've been sending your money, who you've been sending it to, and why, as it relates to FedNow. Okay, with transportation, now we may not have these rules yet, okay, like France does. And Dr. Mickens was saying, yeah, there's speculation that they're already talking about this. We may not have those rules yet, but guess what we do have? What we do have is the electric cars, right? And right now, there's a big push for people to buy electric cars. They're giving you tax breaks. They get, just whatever. There's this big push for everybody to move to these electric cars, right? And while we're sitting and thinking, oh yeah, because it's the newest and greatest thing, right? It's going to be efficient. It's going to, save the birds or, whatever. And it's like, the truth is it may be doing that stuff, but what's the real reason behind the electric cars and pushing everybody to get one, right? Because here's what the capacity will be to turn on and off the switch for those electric cars. Okay, listen, some of y'all may have already had the experience where you purchased a vehicle or financed a vehicle through a company, or of someone, and the person didn't make a payment, and you didn't make a payment, maybe a couple of payments, 3 payments, and they shut that thing off. The technology is already here. So what I'm saying is not like way off base, right? So I'm just saying that there is the capacity to do these things. They are not just thinking about, oh, let's see what will help and be convenient for the people. I wish that in all cases that was true. Okay. But in all cases, that is not the truth. Can I go back to what I said at the top of this show? The Fed is not a government entity. The Fed is a private entity that seeks control. The U.S. is in debt to the Fed. Okay? And the U.S. hasn't been able to pay its bills. Do you see where we're going? Okay? The U.S. has not been able to pay its bills. All right? So the Fed is in control. It is not the government. It is not the government that is in control. Okay? That is my opinion. I want to be clear and say that. But if we just take a look, at what's going on, we know that. Okay. And so there you have it. So there's a privacy continuum. There's a control continuum. There is, we just pray that there are good people in place that will utilize these things for people's best interests. But we know that there are people who are malintentioned. They are self-preserving. They are wanting to be in control. And so they will utilize things to that end. And that's with anything. Some people will say, oh, YouTube and Facebook and all of that, that's the devil. No, it's not. The devil is the person using it and how they're using it. Okay? The reason why they're using it, their motives behind using it. Okay. So the government, is never going to come out and outright say, oh, we want to control all the people. They're never going to say that. Instead, they're going to say, We have a more efficient and effective way. Instead, they're going to discourage you from doing crypto and say that it is, not regulated. So they're instilling fear so that you can move in the direction that they want you to move you in, that they want you to go in, right? So they will use words like that, and you can already see it. There are tons of articles right now talking about, oh no, the FedNow system, is not for that. It is just simply an instant payment system. Right now it may be. But who are the people behind it? What are their true motives, right? Dr. Mickens, we are not ignorant to Satan's devices. That's right. The Bible tells us not to be ignorant to his devices. And it's so interesting to me sometimes that the Bible uses that word devices, because that's what we call these things these days, right? Devices, these instant payment systems and all of that. That's what we call them, devices, right? So we can't be ignorant. On one hand, we have some great inventions, right? Some great innovative stuff going on, some great things in technology going on, and I'm not against it. But the question is, who's behind it, right? Who's behind it? Thank you, Dr. Mickens. She says, you are on point. Who's behind it? That's the question. Okay. So the last thing that I want to say about this is you can expect that also PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, you can expect that your banks are going to start to say, hey, we are no longer allowing you to use those payment instant payment things here. It's already started. There are banks that have already said we're not using Zelle anymore. Like it's already started. It's not coming. It's already started. Okay. There are banks that are saying they're no longer using Zelle. Okay. So there's just going to be more and more of that. And why is that? Because FedNow is not going to want to allow you to have easy access to its competitors. And so now Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, all these different things, and even the international ones, SendWave, all those good things, all those things now become competitors because they now have their own instant payment system. Okay. So pay attention and be prepared. Okay. Pay attention and be prepared. The Bible tells us that we need to be sober. We need to be vigilant. Be sober. Again, let us not be intoxicated with the news stories that they put out front for us to be consumed with, okay, and be distracted by. Let us not be intoxicated with that. Let us be sober, okay? Am I concerned about, do I have a level of care about the people that are missing in the submarine? Sure. But that is not the only news that I'm looking for, okay? I'm not going to allow them to dictate to me what I should put in the forefront of my mind as news, okay? As kingdom citizens, we got to be very mindful of that. We got to be sober. We got to be vigilant, because as it continues to say, the enemy goes about seeking whom he can devour, not seeking who he can play with, not seeking who he can mess with, not seeking who he can just bother a little bit. It says devour. And so in our finances, we need to make sure that we are sober and that we are vigilant and that we are prepared so that we are not devoured, okay, by the enemy. Anyone who seeks to utilize whatever resources and tools for their evil, selfish gain. Okay. All right. So that's all that I have to share with you all. Are there any other questions? I certainly appreciate the interaction and the feedback, those that I was able to see. And so thank you for joining. And if I was able to see your name, I shouted you out. If I haven't seen your name and I haven't shouted you out, you want one, you got about 30 seconds to say something in the chat, even if it's just a thank you or I don't agree with you. You can say that too, right? Any of that. But thank you for tuning in. I do this again so that we can be prepared because we still, okay, the Bible says that God has given us the ability to create wealth. So I don't care what humans come up with, okay, to try to keep the rich richer and the poor poorer. When you are part of the kingdom, you are your natural experience is abundance. Abundance is part of the culture. And so therefore, we don't have to be, afraid of what they're doing. We just got to be prepared. That's it. And be tuned into God and listening for his instructions and how we should operate financially. Okay. And being tuned in with God, I made a post about this on Facebook the other day. Being tuned in with God, it starts with reading your word. Reading your word. That's where it starts. Okay. There's a scripture. I also did a post on Facebook about this today. I think it's chapter 24. Forgive me. Look at my post. I may have the wrong post, but it says that essentially what it's saying is that God is, let me find it. I think I got it right here. Maybe. Yes. The secret of Yah is with those who fear him, and he makes his covenant known to them. In other words, for those of us who fear him, not just love him, for those of us who fear him, because love and fear are two different things. We can love a person, but not fear them, okay? For those of us who fear him, and fear not as in afraid, okay? It just means in awe of him. He considers us a friend. The New Living Translation says we are his friend, and because we are his friend, he confides in us. And so we can know what to do with our finances simply by studying our word, drawing closer to him, being in awe of him, so that he can consider us a friend and give us inside trade information. Isn't that great? So, Dr. Mickens, you're awesome. You're very, very welcome. And I look forward to seeing you here again. And someone said, hey, Pastor Lexi, I can't see your name. It doesn't show me your name, but hey to you too. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'm going to get out of here 7 minutes longer than I wanted to be. You guys have an amazing Thursday. Thanks for tuning in to the Wealth Seed, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye.